A word from the street, I mean the internet, I guess the internet's a new street. A word from the internet, Virus Pilot is the best episode of the 2016 Powerpuff Girls. Now, I've watched this so-called best episode of the series and I don't disagree with them. It isn't my favorite, but it is the best when it comes to excitement, stakes, and engagement, which makes this review all the more tragic. The best description for this episode is disappointing. The plot for this episode is basically Bubbles has this mobile game she developed that has become a hit with kids. The Amiibo boys find this mysterious guy who gives them a device that allows them to physically access Bubbles' game and the internet. Once the girls realized the Amiibo boys had physically access to the internet and that they would ruin the internet, Bubbles finds a way to allow Blossom and Buttercup to physically access the internet as well in order to stop the Amiibo boys. Things happen, a few internet and computer references were shown, the girls saved the day, and the teaser to a new villain was shown. Now it's time to talk about the missteps of this episode. The very first one was Bubbles. So apparently Bubbles develops apps now? And not just generic apps, but apps enough to be a success from what I can tell. The problem here is that Bubbles is never shown to have any interest in program or anything related to computers. I mean, sure, she has been shown to be a fan of trendy stuffs, but that doesn't necessarily translate to programming. I can picture someone getting into programming because they like trendy stuffs, but you have to actually show me her interest in programming, which this show didn't. Even if developing mobile games is easy, you have to at least show a little interest in program, especially if the mobile game is a hit with kids. But you know what's the most confusing thing about all of this? Bubbles. Bubbles states that she only has interest in developing mobile games, but she's somehow capable of allowing Blossom and Buttercup to physically access the internet and aid them at defeating the Amiibo boys by just typing. That does not sound like someone who only has interest in developing mobile games. I don't care if Blossom inspired her or something. Bubbles is not a genius who's able to master something she has no interest in less than a day. And speaking of genius, I agree with Shadowstreak when he suggested that Blossom or the professor should have been the person dealing with the computer-related tasks. They are much more suitable. Why does it have to be Bubbles of all people? Oh, it's to give her more character. It's things like this that makes me wish they had just kept the three main girls simple in terms of character, like in the original show. By the way, let's talk about the professor. This is my least favorite scene of this episode.
Sorry, girls. I guess I just don't understand computers.
Oh god. First of all, the professor does understand computers. Do your homework, showrunners. I mean, come on, he's a scientist. Shouldn't that be enough for the writers to reconsider putting this joke? Also, isn't the parents know jack squat about computers joke kind of dated? I mean, this joke probably would have worked if it was told like 10 or 20 years ago, but now in 2016, where so many things are generated by computers, I'm not even sure if this joke would have worked even if the professor wasn't a scientist and someone with actual knowledge of computers. About the internet references, I wasn't very into them. Not because they were poorly written references, it's just that every time I saw an internet or computer reference, I got flashbacks of the million times the show shoved trendy references to our screen in the hopes of appealing to the youth. The jokes were okay, except for the professor joke. I didn't necessarily laugh at them, but I can picture someone laughing at those jokes. I guess I should also talk about the villain tease at the end. The scene that everyone calls the best thing that ever happened to the show, and I agree. In fact, after watching this episode, I was very curious to see the next episode, only for me to watch this garbage of an episode. There's nothing else I have to say, besides the Amiibo boys actually being villains. I was not okay with that. I prefer the Amiibo boys as just bad villains, but this wasn't really something that bothered me that much. What do I have to say about the episode as a whole? It kind of stinks. But if this is the best the show can do, I hope to see more of this kind of episode. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Bye for now.